I don't like to talk about productivity too much because we all have enough pressure to get things done, but I do want to talk about this because it is something that has had an impact on my life. Until the age of 23, I was obsessed with goals. Forget about being a goal digger, I was a goal digger, and yep, I probably had that cheesy quote on a dream board somewhere. There were two big problems with my obsession with achieving goals. One, I thought that my happiness would come with the outcome of achieving that goal. I'll be happy when I get that A star. I'll be happy when I graduate with honours. I'll be happy when I get a good job I like. It meant that I was really ignoring my happiness in the present moment and putting it off until later. I wasn't enjoying the journey, and because I was so desperate for happiness and for that result, I pushed myself beyond my own limits and I experienced burnout. But if I had enjoyed the journey, I would have set a much nicer pace for myself and had a better balance in life. 2, a goal is just one thing, but what happens next? Okay, so you've set the goal to run a marathon and then you train for months and you achieve it. But now what? Do you just suddenly become a couch potato again? Because once you've won a game, isn't the game over? Now this is not to completely shit on goals. I do think goals are really helpful. They're just a double-edged sword because you can get overly obsessed with them and neglect everything around you until you achieve it, but also having goals does help with focus and direction. Without goals, we might not try nearly as hard to push ourselves towards growth. Like, if I didn't have goals, then as a teenager, I would have probably just sat on the sofa most of the day watching Friends. Now, I'm an adult, and I sit on my sofa working towards my goals, but with Friends on in the background. So, you know, I think goals are great for encouraging us to grow. I don't think there's a YouTube video on goals that doesn't mention James Clear at least once. So this is the part of the video where I'm going to share some James Clear wisdom. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So this is what I want to talk about in today's video. I'm going to talk about the difference between a goal and a system, why systems are important, and how I use systems. So what's the difference between a goal and a system? Well, a goal is what you achieve, but a system is a collection of daily habits that help you get there. If you do something every day or pretty frequently, it's a system. If you're waiting to achieve something someday in the future, it's a goal. So why is it important to distinguish between the two? Because when you set a goal, it doesn't actually say what happens next. Setting a goal is just half of the puzzle. Systems, on the other hand, are action. They make goals more than just a dream. They make whatever you want part of your daily reality right now. And I think that's so important because we should be focusing on our day-to-day joy rather than living in the future, which may never happen. And one of the biggest problems that I have with goals, especially smart goals, is we think of having a time frame for them, but it's not always easy to predict that. Like, I could set a goal to have 100,000 subscribers by July 2022, but how on earth could I possibly predict that? But that's the goal. Whereas I can constantly produce one video a week. Now that's the system. I stopped making 5-year and 10-year plans after I started working, and I realised that I had changed a lot since the age of 18, and what I wanted in life was changing too. When you set a goal for something in 5 years' time, you don't know how things will change. Your own feelings about the goal may change, or the world itself might change. Hello COVID-19, that must have thrown a spanner in the works for so many people's goals. So long-term goals to me just don't really make sense. I prefer short-term goals over long-term goals any day, even if I am in it for the long term, because it's more realistic and it takes into account your current self way more. And it's more easy to apply to your current life, so you're much more able to create a system for it. How do you progress on a goal that you want to achieve 5 years away from now? Whereas if I set a goal that I want to achieve this month, then I'm much more able to manage my own expectations and actually have a clearer focus on how to achieve that. So yeah, I think we should have goals, but I'm more of a fan of short-term goals. And I also don't think we should have that many goals because then we can get overwhelmed. But once you do set a goal and you decide that you want something, then it's time to switch into system mode. So let's say that you want to set a goal to clean your room. Awesome, you do it and you can tick it off your list. But then it becomes messy again because there's no system in place to continuously keep your room clean. Focusing on the system instead of the goals means that you place more of an emphasis on the process. And now we break to yet another James Clear quote. The purpose of setting goals is to win the game. The purpose of building systems is to continue playing the game. True long-term thinking is goalless thinking. It's not about any single accomplishment. It is about the cycle of endless refinement and continuous improvement. Ultimately, it is your commitment to the process that will determine your progress. And for me, learning to enjoy the process has become really crucial. Not only because it means that I'm no longer deferring my happiness, but also if I'm not happy during the process, then it makes me wonder whether the goal is something I really want or even care about. A lot of my family and friends think that I'm this really disciplined person because of the relatively good self-care habits that I have. Not to toot my own horn, but I eat a fairly balanced diet, I exercise every week, I've got a good skincare routine, and when I want to start something like this YouTube channel, I actually end up doing it. Now looking back, I realise that these things became habits because of systems, because it's not like I've always been this way. It was actually only in my final year of uni that I started going to the gym. Before that, I didn't do a single form of exercise except for physical education classes at school, and even then I managed to get a D in that subject.
Hey, check this out, there. Math, A. Science, A. History, A. Gym.
But I set the goal to grow a bum because mine is pretty flat from all the sitting I do, but more importantly, I set a system. I'd work out at home 4 times a week, and once I felt like I couldn't progress anymore, that's when I decided to join the gym and introduce weights into my workout. Setting the goal to grow my bum was still important though, because it was the motivating factor, but that alone would not have been enough. Setting the system was what really changed my life. And I'm not going to stand here and act like I have all of these great habits, because even though I do some of these things some of the time, the reality is I definitely have a lot of days where I do absolutely nothing, and there's also time that I look at others and compare myself and feel like a failure. I swear to you that is just normal. However, I have experienced growth and made changes in my life, and I think it's pretty cool that we can all progress towards things that we want, like YouTube. I could easily tell you that I want 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Okay, cool, but that's just a pipe dream until I built a system to put 1 video out a week. So how do we set these systems? Well, like I said, I do think starting out with a goal is important. You can't create a system until you know what you want. I set dark goals instead of smart goals, and this is your cue to go watch one of my other videos. But if you can't be asked to watch my other video, then lucky for you, I don't hold any grudges. So to set goals, I make sure that 1, they're actually something that I want, that I'm emotionally invested in it, that is within my control, and that is going to help me create a more balanced life. I used to set too many goals, many of them based on what I thought I should do, and so I never was able to make them part of my life. But now I stick to just a few essential goals that I feel will have the most impact on me. So right now, these are some of the goals that I've set. I want to get better at yoga. I tried yoga when I was 18 and I stopped after a year. I started yoga during lockdown and then stopped after a year. And then I signed up for yoga teacher training and then I stopped when I got engaged. Notice a pattern? I always get really into yoga and then eventually stop, and it really affects my progress. And I think part of that is just that I get so bored following other people's flows on YouTube and having to find flows online, which is why I want to be able to practice on my own. I want to become an artist. I've resurrected an old habit of mine that I used to do when I was younger, but I want to be able to paint more and maybe even sell some art on Etsy. I want to prove to myself that I can earn money from my creativity, because growing up I always thought I couldn't, which is why I ended up focusing on science. I also want to develop more meaningful relationships, and I feel like this is a goal that I always have, but it's something that I'm always striving for. I've noticed a bit of complacency on my part lately, and I've noticed that my mood has been pretty low for the past month, and whilst that could be because of the lack of daylight, I also know it's because I've spent a lot of time on my own, or when I am with people, we seem to all be on our devices. So turning these goals into systems is pretty simple. It's just a case of seeing how they can be turned into daily or frequent action. So for me, this is doing yoga daily, whether a 10-minute flow or a 50-minute flow, whether with my body moving or just reading about it. And I'm trying to switch off all of my devices after dinner to encourage me to either create art or spend time with people. And I have a video on how I'm tracking these habits with dashboard journaling, so be sure to check out that video if you need some inspiration. There are definitely evenings where my husband and I will be sitting on our phones or laptops in the evenings with a TV show on, but I'm not going to be hard on myself because the system is still there. It's a human system, not a robotic system. And little by little, as I do daily things, it's me basically choosing myself and choosing to value my current time. A lot of people associate habits and goals as doing something for the future, but I always try to reframe that and think of it as doing something for me right now, because ultimately these are the things that I really want to do. And finally, once you've set your systems, lay back and relax. Enjoy the process, but also be patient. Even with good daily or regular habits, you might not see results straight away. Your goal may still seem far off, but you have to have that faith in the background that you're laying the right foundations. I always like to think of a bamboo tree. You plant the seed, fertilize it and water it. Nothing happens for the first year or the second year or the next year. There's no signs of growth at all. Then all of a sudden, after 5 years, the bamboo tree grows 30 feet in 3 months. For the first 5 years, the tree was growing underground, developing a root system strong enough to support growth. And if it didn't have those roots, it wouldn't have been able to support itself as it grew. So these daily habits and systems, they're what give us our strong roots so that we can shoot up and grow. Now, if only I could find something that does the same for my height. I hope you guys have a beautiful day. I'll see you in the next one.